The needle snapped. Devi stared at the broken tip between her fingers, her fourth one that week, and for just a moment, her hands stopped moving. That almost never happened. In 15 years of weaving, Devi's hands had never truly stopped. They had slowed, yes, on the nights when the oil lamp flickered and her eyes could no longer hold the thread steady, but they had never, not once, come to a complete stillness. Tonight was different. Tonight, somewhere deep in her chest, something felt loose, like a thread pulled one time too many, stretched past the point where it could still hold its shape. She pressed her lips together, reached for a new needle, threaded it in one smooth motion the way she had done 10,000 times before, and kept going. Across the narrow lane, Chandra's lamp had already gone dark. Kalpur was the kind of town that smelled like possibility in the morning. Spiced tea, fresh dye, warm bread carried on the backs of market women walking fast with purpose in their sandaled feet. It sat between two slow rivers that never seemed to be in a hurry, and it had the kind of dusty, golden light at every hour that made everything look like it was worth something. Even the broken things, even the unfinished ones. The market lane that ran through its center was narrow and loud and alive from before sunrise to well past dark. And in the very heart of it, two fabric stalls sat side by side like two halves of an argument nobody had ever quite finished. Devi had run her stall for 15 years. She was the first one open and the last one closed, every single day, without exception, without complaint, without anyone ever needing to ask her twice. She wore her exhaustion like a badge sewn onto her chest, visible, deliberate, almost proud. Customers knew that if they brought her a job, any job, no matter how large or how close the deadline, Devi would find a way to get it done. Through the night, through a fever, through the rainy season when the roof leaked and the damp made the thread go slack. She believed in effort the way some people believe in prayer. Completely, without condition, without asking what it was costing her. Her stall was a monument to that belief. Bolts of fabric stacked 6 high. Spools of thread in every color arranged in no particular system except the system of urgency. Whichever one she had needed last was still sitting out on the table. Her work table was covered in the beautiful chaos of someone who never stopped long enough to clear it. And somewhere under all of it, always, there was a cup of tea gone cold that a neighbor had brought her, and she had never found the time to drink. Chandra had been on the lane for 8 years. She arrived after Devi each morning, which some people took as evidence of a softer commitment. But nobody who watched her carefully, nobody who paid real attention, could honestly call her lazy. Before she touched a single thread or accepted a single order, she arranged her tools in a precise and deliberate line across her work table. She reviewed each active order with the focused calm of someone reading a map before a long journey. She spoke quietly with her young apprentice Mira about what needed to be done that day, and what sequence, and why the sequence mattered. And then, only then, she sat down and began. Mira was 16 and quick and eager in the way that young people are when someone takes the time to explain things to them properly. Chandra had taken that time. She had taught Mira not just how to stitch, but how to think about stitching, how to see the whole garment before beginning any single part of it, how to catch a mistake at the beginning when it cost nothing to fix rather than at the end when it cost everything. Mira made mistakes still, as all apprentices do, but she made fewer of them each week, and the ones she made she understood. Chandra closed her stall earlier than Devi each evening. She did this without apology and without explanation, though she had both ready if anyone pressed her. Her order board was full, the same as Devi's. Her customers were satisfied, the same as Devi's. She simply did not believe that the number of hours you remained visible at your work table was the same thing as the quality of the work you produced at it. She had tried to say this once, gently, to a group of market women who had been admiring Devi's dedication. They had looked at her as though she had said something slightly suspicious. The market people had opinions, as market people always do. Most of them admired Devi loudly and without reservation. Some of them respected Chandra quietly, and with a certain thoughtfulness. Nobody quite understood that those were two very different things, and that the distance between them was where the real story lived. Then Haroon came to Kalper. He arrived on a dry Tuesday morning in a cart loaded with fabric samples and the particular air of a man who had somewhere important to be and intended to get there. His long coat was dusty from the road. His eyes moved quickly across the market stalls with the practiced assessment of someone who had spent decades buying things and knew within 30 seconds whether something was worth his time. He was a cloth trader from the Eastern District, well known in 5 towns for his festival contracts and his complete unwillingness to accept excuses in place of results. He stopped at both stalls. He looked at the work on display. He asked questions that were short and precise and left no room for flattery in the answers. He picked up finished pieces and examined them the way a craftsman examines another craftsman's work, not to be impressed, but to understand. Then he stood between the 2 stalls with his arms folded and said what he had come to say. I need 250 embroidered sashes for the Ranthalai festival. 28 days. The embroidery must be consistent across every piece. Same tension, same border width, same finishing. I have been let down before by people who promised me volume and delivered me chaos. I will not be let down again. He looked at Devi first. Devi felt her heart lift like a kite catching wind off a rooftop. This was exactly the kind of order she had been waiting for. Large, significant, the kind that changed things. I will do it, she said, stepping forward before he had finished speaking. Every single one. All 250. Haroon looked at her with steady, measuring eyes. You understand the consistency requirement? I understand everything, Devi said. I do not sleep much anyway. He turned to Chandra. Chandra had not moved. She was holding the fabric sample he had shown her, turning it slowly in her hands, her eyes tracing the weave with an attention that had nothing performative about it. She was calculating something. Haroon could see that, even if he could not see what. What is the weight of the festival sash? She asked. And will they be worn outdoors or indoors? Haroon blinked. Nobody had ever asked him that before. Outdoors, he said. Evening wear. They need to hold their shape in wind. Chandra nodded slowly. Give me 1 day, she said. I will come back to you tomorrow morning with a full plan, cutting method, stitching sequence, delivery timeline. Haroon looked between them for a moment. Then he made a decision. He split the order, 125 sashes each. He told them both plainly, and without softening it, that whoever delivered cleaner, more consistent work and delivered it faster would earn every contract he brought to Kalper from that point forward. It was not a threat. It was simply the truth of how he operated. Then he climbed back into his cart, clicked his tongue at the horse, and left them standing in the lane with the full weight of what had just happened settling over them like dust in the wake of hooves. That night, Devi worked. Of course she did. She cleared her table with one broad sweep of her arm, stacked the other orders against the wall, and began. She mapped out her hours the only way she had ever known how. More of them, stacked tight and relentless, one on top of the other until the job was done or her body gave out, whichever came second. She told herself she would sleep when it was over. She told herself this was what winning looked like. That same night, Chandra sat at her small table with a single candle, 3 thread samples in the colors Haroon had specified, and a clean sheet of paper. She did not begin stitching. She began thinking. She drew out a cutting pattern that would allow her to layer 8 sashes at once before cutting, which would reduce her fabric preparation time by more than half. She designed a simple but precise border template for Mira to work from independently, freeing Chandra herself for the complex embroidery sections that required experienced hands. She wrote out a day-by-day schedule that built in short rest intervals every 3 hours. Not because she was tired, but because she knew from experience that unbroken hours of fine work produced diminishing returns after the second hour, and errors in embroidery were far more expensive to fix than the 20 minutes of rest that prevented them. She sat back and looked at what she had written. Then she picked up her pen and wrote a number at the bottom of the page. 22 days. She blew out her candle and went to sleep. The next morning, Chandra folded her plan neatly, walked to Haroon's temporary lodging at the edge of the market, and placed it on the table in front of him. He read it slowly, without expression, the way careful men read things they intend to hold people to. 22 days, he said, looking up. You are certain? I am certain, Chandra said. He nodded once. The meeting was over. The race began quietly, the way most important things do. In the first week, Devi was magnificent. There was no other word for it. Her output was enormous. Her fingers moving with a speed and sureness that made even Mira stop her own work sometimes and watch from across the lane with something close to awe. Devi worked 15 hours on the first day and 16 on the second. She refused every cup of tea a neighbor offered. She ate standing up, one hand still holding thread. She told herself she was ahead. She told herself she could feel the finish line already. But the body keeps its own accounts, and it always collects. By the second week, the exhaustion began to seep into the work itself, slowly at first, and then all at once, the way water finds a crack in a wall. A seam she had stitched carefully on Monday looked wrong on Wednesday in better light and had to be torn out entirely. A border pattern she had rushed through on Thursday morning was a full half-width too narrow by the time she checked it Friday evening. Every mistake was a debt she had to repay in double. The time she spent making it and the time she spent undoing it, plus the additional time to do it correctly, plus the slight but real tremor of doubt that followed her into the next piece and made her hands a fraction less sure than they had been before. She started making small decisions she would never have made rested, leaving a slightly uneven tension in a seam because fixing it would cost her an hour. Telling herself it would not show. It showed. She stopped looking up when people greeted her. She stopped answering questions unless they were about the order. Her neighbor tried twice to bring her a proper meal and was turned away both times. At night, alone in her stall with the lane gone quiet, Devi worked by lamplight and told herself that this was the price of great things, and that great things were worth any price, and that she would rest when it was over. She had been saying that for 15 years. Meanwhile, something quiet and steady was happening at Chandra's stall, something that did not announce itself and did not need to. Mira had found her rhythm on the border stitching by day 4. Working from the template Chandra had designed with a consistency that surprised even herself. She began to anticipate the next step before Chandra told her. She began to spot her own small errors before they became large ones. Chandra watched this happening and felt something she recognized as satisfaction. Not the loud kind, but the deep, quiet kind that comes from building something that works. Chandra herself moved through the complex embroidery sections with a focused, unhurried attention. She paused every 3 hours as her schedule required, not because stopping felt natural, it never entirely did, but because she trusted her own planning more than she trusted the feeling in the moment that she could push through. During those pauses, she prepared the next section's materials, checked her progress against her paper schedule, drank her tea while it was still warm. Then she returned to the work with eyes that were still sharp and hands that were still precise. The completed sashes accumulated in a neat, growing stack on the left side of her table. She did not count them obsessively. She knew the number from the schedule. Each one looked like the last. Consistent. Clean. Made with the particular care of someone who understood that the 57th sash deserved the same attention as the first, because Haroon would inspect them all, and a single weak piece in the middle of the stack could unravel everything. On the 22nd day, Chandra tied a cord around her finished bundle, checked each sash one final time against the light from the doorway, and sent Mira to carry word to Haroon. On the 28th day, Devi delivered hers. She carried them herself, both arms full, walking fast the way she always walked, and she set them down in front of Haroon without meeting his eyes straight away. She already knew. She had known since the night before, when she had lined them all up together for the first time and seen what the accumulated small compromises of 4 weeks of exhaustion had produced. But she had delivered them anyway, because Devi did not know how to not deliver something she had promised, even when delivering it cost her more than not delivering it would have. Haroon came to inspect them both in the late afternoon, when the market light was gold and flat and honest and had nowhere to hide. He moved slowly down Chandra's stack first. He ran his thumb along the embroidery lines the way a reader runs a finger along text, feeling for meaning. He held 3 sashes up separately against the light and compared their borders side by side. He set them down without a word, but the way he set them down said everything. Gently, with the care you give to something you intend to keep. Then he moved to Devi's pile. He was quiet for a long time, long enough that the silence became its own kind of verdict. He did not hold any of them up to the light. He did not need to. The uneven seams were visible without effort. The 3 sashes with misaligned borders caught the eye immediately. The tension inconsistencies would show clearly under festival torchlight. He had seen worse. He had paid for worse. Once, when he was younger and more optimistic about people who worked very hard. He turned to face them both and spoke plainly, the way he always did, because he had found over the years that plainness was the only real kindness in business. "Chandra," he said, "all future orders are yours." Devi sat down on her stool. She did not cry. She was too far past tired for tears. She sat with her hands open in her lap and stared at them. These hands that had given everything, that had worked longer and harder than any hands on this lane, that had never once refused a job or flinched from a deadline. And she could not make the outcome make sense. She turned it over and over in her mind the way you turn a knot looking for the loose end, and every time she thought she had found it, it slipped away again. The market carried on around her, loud and indifferent and entirely unconcerned with the mathematics of fairness. Chandra came to her as the evening crowd thinned and the lane began to empty. She brought 2 cups of tea, hot, the way tea should be, and sat on an upturned crate beside Devi without saying anything for a while. She did not bring triumph with her. She did not bring any of the things that would have made the moment easier for herself and harder for Devi. She just sat there in the cooling evening air and waited. "I worked harder than I have ever worked in my life," Devi said finally. Her voice was flat and dry, emptied out. "Harder than I worked for any order. Harder than I have ever worked for anything." "I know," Chandra said. "I watched you." "Then how?" Devi said, and stopped. The question was too large for the words she had available. She tried again. "I gave it everything I had. I gave it more than everything. How does that not count for something?" Chandra turned her cup slowly in both hands. She looked out at the lane, at the last few market women packing up their stalls in the fading light, at the town settling into its evening self. "It counts," she said quietly. "It counts for a great deal. But effort and direction are 2 different things, Devi, and you cannot have one do the work of both." She paused. A weaver with tangled thread loses more time than the one who stopped to straighten it first. Your dedication is real. Your endurance is real. There is nobody on this lane, nobody I have ever seen, who works the way you work. But a river without banks does not water more land. It floods everything and loses itself. Devi was quiet for a long time. "Teach me," she said finally. The words cost her something real and visible. She was not a woman who asked for help. She was a woman who found a way, alone, through sheer force of will. Always had been, and asking felt like admitting that 15 years had been built on an incomplete foundation. Chandra heard all of that in the 2 words. She heard the weight of them. "Yes," Chandra said. "And you teach me how to push when the planning is done and the work simply needs to be driven through. I have the system. I have never had your stamina." She paused. "I need both. So do you." They sat there together in the lane until the last lamp went dark and the night settled fully over Kalpur and the 2 slow rivers ran on in the dark without hurrying anywhere at all. By the following dry season, there was one workshop where 2 stalls used to be. It was not a large workshop. It did not need to be large to be good. Mira had her own dedicated corner of it now. A small territory she had earned stitch by careful stitch over the months of learning. Haroon's cart came regularly, reliably, on the same day each fortnight, and he no longer inspected the work with the careful suspicion of a man who had been disappointed before. He simply collected it. Orders came from towns 3 days' ride away, carried by word of mouth along the roads and through the markets of the Eastern District. 2 women in Cowper who made beautiful things, on time, every time, without burning themselves to ash to do it. 1 strong back, 1 clear mind. Together, they went the farthest.